Might as well get started. I think Caitlin got it up in the room. I apologize. I didn't realize that people were coming in person because most of the time I'm there, but this morning I have somewhere else to be in Chesapeake. Has anyone dealt with a septic here lately that they've needed to do anything with, or done a land contract where they were gonna have to have somebody do a perk test or anything like that? All right, great. Can anyone hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Sorry. Trying to
Okay.
get my computer sorted.
We're trying to get
I can hear you.
Okay. So Virginia in 2021 passed legislation that makes the health department now consider rising sea levels for low-lying coastal areas, which is our entire area, to consider failing septics, which means that people that already have septics are no longer considered quote unquote grandfathered in if their systems fail. They will be required, if their systems failed, to now install an alternate system. So unless you are, and I'm trying to remember exactly what it is, here we go. It is now, it has an indemnification fund to provide grants and loans to the property owners with incomes at or below 200% of the federal poverty level to repair failing systems, which is a lot. 200% is a lot. And those systems are not inexpensive. And now I will screen share this for you guys. And North Carolina seems to have kind of followed suit with that. So, as you know, in Virginia, you get your perk test done, you get them done by a private firm, and that's what you submit as well as the permit. It seems like everything as far as I have seen here recently, I haven't seen anything get approved here recently for a traditional system unless you're further out, like towards Isle of Wight. Everything that's like towards Pungo and all of those places, it seems to be all alternative systems unless you got that permit several years ago. Those permits are, once they've been filed, are good for 2 years. I don't know if they're going to. However, you used to be able to transfer that permit to a new owner. I don't know if they're going to put a stop to that or not. Because they seem to be wanting these alternative systems because they're concerned about groundwater contamination. So, and we're gonna screen share this here. Hi. You guys look very confused.
Sorry, ignore us. We're still trying to bring up the meeting in the office. The calendar invite and the text invite had two different meeting IDs.
Okay. You need me to give it a minute?
No, we're good. We're all listening on my phone, so don't worry about us. Just ignore the faces at the moment. Matter of fact, I'm just gonna white that out. Terrible.
All right, here we go. So There's two types of septics that seem to be what our Virginia Health Department wants to see and what Northeastern North Carolina wants to see, which is your drip distribution center or drip distribution system and a mound system. The mound system seems to be a little bit less expensive. Those are what I'm seeing most often. And those are your two alternative systems that seem to be approved in our area. So here's your drip distribution system. Can everybody see that? I don't know if the office can see it yet.
No, because I still haven't got this
Okay.
stupid meeting to come up on the computer yet. I'm working on it.
You're fine. Take your time. We will do this. Tanya, do you want to share what you found out in North Carolina here recently while they work on getting this screen share going? I lost her entirely.
I'm still here.
No, it's okay. Maybe come back.
Any kind of fool can see.
Alrighty.
So what was the question you had asked? Sorry.
Oh no, I was just asking if anybody had dealt with at first I had asked if anybody had dealt with a septic or a land contract recently that required a park.
No. David?
No,
Nope.
but I have a question.
David has a question though.
Hey, Chrissy. So
Hi.
this new ruling,
Mhm.
when does it take place again?
It took place in 2021.
Oh,
But
so it's already, okay,
it's
so
already happened.
if you have an old antiquated system currently and you're
Correct.
living there, is it a non-issue until you go to sell the property? Or are they saying, hey, sea level's rising and you have X amount of time to replace it, or we're going to shut your household down? That's what I'm wondering.
So basically what's happening is you're fine until something terrible happens. If something terrible happens where you now have to replace major portions of that system, like let's say the septic system fails, because eventually they fail, right?
Right.
So when that septic system fails or fails enough that you now have to replace large portions of it, you're not going to be able to get the permit to do that. You have got to replace it with an alternate system.
Gotcha. Okay, so if you are in a real estate transaction and the septic is still working, you're not required until it actually fails. And whoever's head that lands on is going to be the one responsible.
Correct.
Gotcha.
And,
okay. All right.
These alternate systems are not inexpensive. I think
What is not inexpensive? What, I mean, aren't they now like 40, 50 normal? So are these more expensive than that?
these are about $60,000 systems.
Okay. All right. Yeah,
So,
I'm talking ballpark just so I know.
Yeah,
talk to people.
cause they require, like the drip distribution system is, it doesn't, I haven't seen a lot of them. A lot of them are requiring the mound system instead of the drip distribution system.
When you say
because-
distribution, does that mean drain field? That's the.
Yes, it
term.
has a drain field, but the
That's
difference
what
is
I'm used to hearing,
is
drain
that the
field.
mound system, it
Mhm.
brings in additional soil, which is half of the problem because most of our soil here is clay. We don't
Right.
have a lot of sand.
Right,
So, and we're seeing it a lot in like northeastern North Carolina where they don't have sandy enough soil. And
Mhm.
that's just over the, border because North Carolina's health department has completely taken over that portion of it. You can't call a septic company or anybody else to get a perk test down there anymore at all. You have to go directly to the health department to get your perk test done.
okay,
They have
Hmm.
taken over the whole thing. You can't, there's nobody else. You will go directly to the health department and they do the septic design as well. The county does it. You cannot get an engineering firm to do it. You cannot get a septic design company to do it. You can only get the health
and,
department for that
when it
county.
gets put, and when it gets put in, I guess there's only an approved list of contractors on the
No,
North
you can,
Carolina.
as long as it's a licensed septic company, you can get whomever you want to put it in.
But it has to be per the specifications of the state of North Carolina.
Per that county. So that
Per that
county is the
county.
one that is gonna do that perk test and is going to do that septic design for you. And they are going to issue the permit. You can choose your contractor, but
Okay.
it will be to that design, to that specification,
Or you will not be approved here, right?
period, the end of story. So
Just another fiery hoop to jump through.
So again, we don't see a ton of these drip distribution centers because we don't have enough sandy soil. And
Right.
most of the time, what you're gonna see is you're gonna see a mound system, okay? Because
Right.
our soil, because it is mostly clay and we have groundwater so close, and part of the legislation is because of rising sea levels. It's in the legislation is that they literally want us to consider climate change and rising sea levels because we are in a coastal area and they want to make sure, and they're concerned about shellfish populations and contamination of the groundwater. It goes into the Chesapeake Bay Preservation Act.
Connected here, so we'll just have to keep that as.
All right,
Speaker.
so in Virginia Beach, let's just say Pungo area, Bat Bay, whatever. You
Mhm.
don't have to go to the state at this point. You can still get your perk test done by
Correct.
3 or 4 of the people that always do it, the septic companies.
Yes, in Virginia, you are still getting your own perk test from whomever you deem
So
worthy
the,
to give you a
state
perk
of
test.
Virginia doesn't have their fingers in the pie at this point.
Correct. They do not
But
have
it's
their fingers.
probably coming down the pike eventually.
I have a feeling it is coming down the pipe, just like North Carolina did
Right,
it.
because we're so close. I mean, they,
So
as it hadn't already.
this is the most common system that I'm seeing them approve, which is bringing in additional soil because they're layering it and they're building the sand layer for the distribution of the water. Because we have such shallow soil depths to groundwater.
Right,
This is what they're most likely going to require you to install. And It's the sand that is what it's a natural filter. So
Right.
this is what they're now requiring most often than not. So, and I've seen these all the way out in all the way out in Suffolk being approved. So it's not just us, it's not just, right here by the water. I mean, I've seen them having to put them in all the way out in Suffolk, in Zuni, having to put in these alternative systems.
Mhm.
So, and then the other thing that I caution you on when you guys have clients that are looking at lots and things like that is that when you do these perk tests and things of that nature, in North Carolina, especially if you're shopping for land in North Carolina, is one of the things that we ran into is that down there in North Carolina, there are not enough surveyors. It's taking 8 to 10 months to get a survey,
God.
and you have to be, in order to install a septic, the septic has to be further, 100 feet or more from a well water pump.
Uh-huh.
And I've seen it done a lot where, separate lots have been sold and they're not huge lots. And somebody will have put an irrigation well on the edge of their lot to make the other lot not be able to have a septic. So you need to make sure that you do your research about what's on not just the lot that your people are looking at, but what is on the lot next door, especially
Right.
in Virginia,
Because
because
if they have the only way you could get septic is to like pay them off to like move their well or something, right? I mean,
pretty much. I mean, like, unless you're gonna somehow pay the city to bring city sewer down the street.
which is not happening in 98% of those locales. It's not
Absolutely not.
99.9.
No, I mean, I sold a lot in Suffolk a few years ago, and the neighbors did have an irrigation well up against the property line, and so they were very limited. We were still able to get it done, but they were very limited about where they could build the house on the lot because of where the septic had to go on the lot. And it was a waterfront lot, and so they had to purchase a variance to build into what was the landward
Did you get the audio up for that?
wetlands,
Oh,
Uh-huh.
because the septic could only go in a specific spot because it had to be so far from that irrigation well. So the septic design dictated where the footprint of the house could go.
Yeah.
So it's things to consider when you start
More
looking at
often than
land.
not, what's more often than not will screw up what the original owners wanted to do to begin with when they find out where their footprint can go. The lot's not big enough.
Correct. And if you have, that
So
particular
you need a
neighborhood,
lot of due diligence time if you're
Yep.
submitting an offer to get all this
Correct.
really nailed down and 100% in your mind. So
Yep.
before you move forward, because
that is
you
correct.
don't get caught with your pants down.
You better write it in there. You better make sure that you write in everything that you want done. So,
Okay.
and then Tanya is going to share with us what she found out from Albemarle as well. I think.
Yeah, if I can figure out how to computer today, that would be nice. Embarrassing.
Oh, you're not the only one.
Yeah, I don't know. I had problems with my phone this morning. Now I'm having problems with my computer.
I
But I
had
think
problems
I've-
getting into Zoom.
Yeah, good now. Good now. So it's Christy's already said a lot of what I found out.
Do you
but I
want to
do-
share the
yeah,
Albemarle map?
you need to enable, you have to add me as a co-host again.
I did.
You did?
Oh,
It's
wait,
telling
you came
me
back
I
though.
can't. Exactly.
There we go. Sorry, I didn't know.
Okay. All right. So I've got a couple of things pulled up. Let me share this. Okay. First thing is the surveys are a nightmare. We've already said that. So be prepared.
Join your phone and just mute yours so you can see the screen.
In North Carolina. But this is the map that I was able to find that pulls up the condition of the soil.
Counter invite though. Counter invite.
Okay.
No, I haven't.
Y'all good?
Yep.
Okay. But it pulls up the condition of the soil. And as you see, most of Eastern North Carolina is red, which means the very small pockets of yellow and green that we see on this map are the only areas that are going to be able to have a traditional system. North Carolina is pushing the mound systems. And it's a whole process. Now, what I did find out is you actually can hire a firm, but they prefer you to go through the Albemarle Health Department in order to get all of the things done. That way it's done properly. You don't have any issues. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So there's a whole process to it. I'm going to pull up this first document. The first one here just goes over what the fees are. As you can see, the initial stuff is, your clients are gonna be putting down some money. The site evaluation, first and foremost, is the $300 fee on the top here. That's the first thing that needs to get done, where they come in and they test the soil, see if you are able to, what kind of system, where you fall in that. Most of where we are putting in offers on North Carolina soil is going, it's gonna need that alternative system. Like I said, they're pushing the mound system. So, but there's a whole process to this. Hold on, let me find. Oh, that's the guidelines. But that's the first step. The first step is going to be to get your perk test done, figure out what kind of soil you're dealing with. You fill out this form here through Albemarle Regional Health Services. And this is going to set you up to be able to have them come out and do the soil test. Typically, what I was told, the turnaround for that is between 30 to 45 days. Sometimes it can take longer. It depends on their workload. But most of the time, it's just going to take that 30-day window. But you would just fill out this information for your client. Ultimately, they're going to want copies of the survey, everything that goes with that. This is the application to be able to install on-site water system. So it tells you step by step everything they're going to do as far as drawing in the plans. Once everything is done, you've gone through your soil test, they say, hey, you're going to need a mound system. Here's what we suggest based on how many bedrooms that you are planning to build. Pay all of the fees step by step. And then ultimately you can then go and find a company to install the system. But it is a long process. So you do need to make sure you have enough time in due diligence period to be able to accommodate all of the steps. And keep in mind, you are working on county government times. So from what I hear, the initial perk test is not that bad, but going afterwards, it all depends on what they find with that perk test as far as drawing the plans and getting the approved system and being ultimately able to get your permit. So that's pretty much what I got.
Ooh.
And then Virginia Department of Health has the same thing, except for the fact that they want you to go through a private sector licensed individual. So all applications for on-site sewer systems and or private wells must be accompanied by supporting work from a private sector consultant who is properly licensed to do such work through DPOR. Only owners may submit a petition for services. And then you can, they have a copy of the poverty guidelines as well on their website, which I will provide in the chat. Where is our chat? Here we go. And there we go. And also, let me go back to, let's see.
I stopped sharing my screen, so you.
I know, I'm
can-
coming.
Okay, just making sure.
I'm getting there. My, what is it called? My little taskbar won't go away, so it's hard to click on it. Virginia Department, or the Virginia Health Department does not have a map like Albemarle does. Unfortunately, they make you rely on, D4 licensed folks. They do not handle it. They do have their application online that you're going to need somebody else's help to fill out. You're going to have to rely on these private sector folks to do all of your stuff. It is a typable PDF. To get all of your stuff. Their system has not been updated. So this is kind of where it gets messy. So these documents that you're filling out have not been updated since 2019. However, the new legislation is from 2021. So, just be aware that on here, what you're asking for, might not be approved based on that. So, and this is of course your poverty, federal poverty line, which this is how you get help. Which our poverty lines are quite low. This is the federal poverty guidelines. So you have to be pretty daggone poor to be able to meet their hardship guidelines. To get help with replacing or repairing that system.
Yeah, they pretty much fixed it so you can't own a house.
No water
get
for
help.
you.
Yeah.
So. Now I mean, yeah, I mean, it is pretty, it's a pretty sad state of affairs. Okay, so here is a list of their fees for on-site sewage and well application fees. And again, this is from 2019. They have not updated their site since, nor have their hardship guidelines been updated. So,
So I have a question for that. With the hardship guidelines, I mean, they're not updated on the website, but do you know if they've changed any?
Here- no, they're
Assume
still, so while they're going to stick with what is on their website,
That's
is my
unfortunate.
understanding of it.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
So, because as we know, government agencies have a tendency to move at a snail's pace. So it is what it is, unfortunately. But these are, the changes that have been made. I would, if you have clients that are looking at houses with septics and things like that, I mean, I would caution you to, verify the age of these septic systems. Now, septic systems that are well cared for can last a really, really long time. However, we have legislation in place that, we've got flooding and things like that. And once the system floods and with rising groundwater, the system will eventually fail. And your client needs to be prepared for that possibility. It just kind of is what it is. You know what I mean? Now, that doesn't mean don't buy a house with a septic. It just means that, hey, these are the things that are happening in general. Now there's plenty of houses that already have mound systems. I think that North Carolina is honestly ahead of the game on this. We're seeing it a lot in like Knott's Island, where people that have repairs that need to be done, they are making them switch to an alternate system. You will see houses for sale down there that are being sold because the septic is failing and they cannot afford to replace the system. It is just what it is. There's not much that can be done about it. So make sure you get those, all of your septic stuff done. Make sure you get a septic inspection and well inspection. If you're buying if your clients are buying something with a septic or well. Why does it keep doing this? Does anyone have questions?
Nope.
Okay. So last time in my last video, we went over all of the different types of septic, but I mean, honestly, the two most important ones are the ones that we see most often in our area, and you're going to see them again, see the mound system most often, which is going to bring in gravel and sand, and your client is, you're going to have to pay for those things to be brought in. So, and has everyone seen what a traditional system looks like? This is what we typically see now. It's the older system. Which is just set in. And most of the time what we see is because we have a lot of coastal flooding, is what we have is as the groundwater rises and we get a lot of coastal flooding, we have, this gravel that's laid down. But since we have such sand or such clay soil, the clay does not disperse the water. And once it's overly saturated with water, there is nowhere for it to go except for up, which means you now have basically raw sewage sitting inside your yard. Because how many times have you guys dug a hole and hit groundwater? There's nowhere for it to go. So, honey, did you find anything else out about Albemarle?
I mean, not really. That hasn't already been said. I did have that good conversation. One of the people I spoke with worked for the health department for 19 years, and he was familiar with almost every piece of land out there. And he coordinates, he's kind of like the middleman for dealing with the health department now and dealing with any private firms. The one thing I want to say is most people that use private firms out there, they're the developers. They're not individual people. The individual single family new construction, like what I'm dealing with now, is done through the health department. But really, there's not much. I did put the links in the chat for the North Carolina soil map and for the link to where to go to get all of the information. So that is in the chat now.
Okay. Alrighty. Hang on 1 second.
But until the next step, until I actually find the land and go through this with the client, I'm sure more things will pop up for the next time we go over septic. But
Mhm. Here we go. Yeah, because Virginia just doesn't give us a good map.
not at all. That's why I kind of like that North Carolina kind of handles it through the health department. I wish Virginia would follow suit because it is very transparent and they give a lot of information on
Yeah,
the
they
guide.
just don't have a good one. They just don't have a good soil map for
No, but keep in mind the house I sold in Suffolk last summer, they did have to replace the majority of that existing, the drain field, the pump, all of that. And I'm not sure where the soil stood there, but they let them replace the pieces instead of installing a new, completely new system. But that was still like 38,000, you know. So
it was expensive.
yeah.
So, and what did they replace?
They replaced the drain field pipes or the
Mhm.
drain field, and then they replaced the pump.
And that was $38,000.
Yep.
Mm.
And a good
Cool.
chunk of that bill was the excavation part of it to
Mhm.
remove the existing stuff.
Mhm. Golly day.
It was a lot.
Mhm.
And in North Carolina, the quotes that I was getting from everyone I spoke with these mound systems is anywhere between 50 and 60, depending on size of the house, what they got to do. But most of Eastern North Carolina, they just have to bring in the sand and the gravel.
Yeah, that's the biggest cost.
Yep.
But the mound system seems to be the least expensive option, which is, I think, why people go with them more often.
Yeah, I think that's why they're pushing it because it's the most cost effective for everybody.
It is the most cost effective, and we don't have enough soil to, you know what I mean? We don't have enough soil to drain the water.
Yeah.
So that's why they want the additional soil brought in. So yeah, unfortunately, Virginia does not have a map that we can evaluate soil types at all.
Let me see. I just saw something.
Yeah,
I think it was on the government side of like the US government, like they did state by state. But I don't know
Yeah.
how in depth it is. I would have to look
It's
at
not. I looked at
it.
it.
Yeah. Okay.
multiple times.
Alrighty.
So unfortunately, I can tell you that we have 10 different soil types as far as building goes in the US, 10 being basically granite and 1 being a waterbed. And we have soil type 1. Which is why we have a tendency of building slab houses with a monolithic slab. And a monolithic slab has, you know, footers that go down into the ground because basically, like, you're basically just holding everything underneath so that it can just float around on the soil. So I'll give you an idea of how terrible it is. So, because we're basically building on water beds.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that is your update for septic stuff. And hope that was helpful.
It was great. And I'm glad I don't deal with North Carolina.
Well, I mean, some of us do, so I decided to make sure that there was a little bit of both in there, and I have a feeling that Virginia is probably going to follow on North Carolina's heels as far as making the health department take over, because you already have to submit your permits and your requests to the Virginia Health Department. And I have a feeling that Virginia will follow behind North Carolina, where they will eventually take over that. I don't know when, and I don't know how they're going to manage to do it. They might not, but with the amount of regulations that they're trying to push, especially in coastal areas, and especially from a federal level, where they're trying to protect the wetlands, and we have Chesapeake Bay preservation, and we have all of these, you know, environmental causes and environmental protections pressing down on us in a coastal area. There's going to be a lot of oversight that is going to have to push down on those things, and it's probably going to be the only way that they can manage to do it. So I have a feeling that that's probably going to come down the pipeline at some point. So
I mean, I don't think North Carolina is very scary. To me, I prefer it being handled that way, because then there's no question and you don't have to worry about some of these contractors, you know, trying to get over on anyone. I hate to say that, but at least it's very transparent and black and white, and this is what we require, and this is what you have to do, and we're going to control it. It also makes it cheaper for the client.
it is less expensive. It is less expensive. That, and they did have, the health department did actually have a faster turnaround time than most contractors did.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That, and they were very transparent in saying that, like, you can get us to do it, but why? It's going to take us longer. Just go to the health department, do the $300, get it done in a month, you know?
So, I mean, yeah. I mean, I kind of like it better, to be honest with you,
Mhm.
because you can't if they're the one doing the perk test and the design, you can't mess up your own permit. They're the one issuing it.
Yep.
I got $5 says they can. And will.
Well,
Oh.
anybody can mess it up, but at least it's on them.
Yes. It does sound easier.
Yeah, I mean, in Virginia, I don't know about North Carolina on this one, but in Virginia, if you were issued a permit for a conventional system, it is a 2-year permit, and you can extend that 2-year permit if you have not built yet. I don't know how long that is going to last at this point. Cause that was pre-2021. Right now, they have not changed it. But I don't know if they are going to continue to extend those pre-existing permits. I have a feeling at some point it is going to catch up with those who have not built yet, but are still holding on to those permits.
I'm trying to see if it says it on the Albemarle stuff, but I don't see it. I'll have to find out. That's a good one.
So, the other thing is that, when you, in Virginia, when you have that perk test done and septic design, make sure that you hire a company that does the perk test, septic design, and files the permit for your client. That way your client is not, especially if you're doing land, that way your client is not scrambling to figure it out. Cause it is not an easy task. Unless your client is a builder. Like just have someone else handle it. It's easier that way. It's less expensive that way. Sure, you're gonna have a little bit more upfront cost, but it is much less expensive. But like Tanya said, it's $300 to start this process in Albemarle for this perk test. But the flip side of that is to hire a private firm in Virginia to do that, where it's the perk test, the design, and the permit is going to be $900 to $1,000. So. Anyone have any more questions?
We're good here at the office.
Alrighty. Well, I hope you guys have fun, and I'm gonna get to my next meeting.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.